When Itchy Break was created, the whole premise was to make sure people understood to take a break from themselves. We all need those reminders. To laugh, to love, to have fun, and be a little silly. Just be in the moment and take a break. That's our mission. Just take a break and reset yourself. So welcome to It's Your Break. Welcome to It's Your Break. Hi, I'm Jonathan Mertz, and coming up on today's show, we're going to be talking about a nonprofit that is helping people out, and it's through the eyes of one of its creators, Ashieya, Mariano, and it's next here on It's Your Break. Hey, you. Are you following us? Oh, don't worry. You should be. You should be following us everywhere on our socials, like Instagram, Threads, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube, all at It's Your Break. And you should be consuming us on your favorite podcast app, like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon, Audible, and iHeartRadio. So, it's okay. We want you to follow us. And remember to like and subscribe. And if you get a chance, leave us a comment or two, and maybe even a review. This is It's Your Break. Welcome to It's Your Break. I am Jonathan Mertz, and Ashieya Mariano is with me right now, who is one of the people behind Builders of a Better World. It's a nonprofit, and we're going to get deep diving into that. But before we do, we need to hear a little bit of backstory and a little bit more about our guest. Ashlieya, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So before we get started into why you came here, which is to talk about Builders of a Better World, I want to address what's very obvious right now and get a little background from you, because you have an accent that is very unique.
Oh, yes. Well, thank you. I grew it myself. Yes, so I have Ireland is home, and then I split time between Southern California and the UK. I went to school in the UK, so my accent tends to be a meld of all things. But when I go home, I go to Ireland.
Oh, okay. And they always say there was no snakes in Ireland. Is that true?
St. Patrick. That is, snakes are probably symbolic for just pagan beliefs, but good old St. Patrick and his staff drove the snakes out of Ireland. That's the significance of our recent holiday, St. Patty's, which is now just most heavily associated with Irish tradition and culture and all around that heritage. But it's called St. Patrick's Day to honour St. Patrick, who is known to have driven the snakes out of Ireland.
And I think here in the United States, it's just an excuse to have fun and let loose.
And drink a load of alcohol, usually, and go to a pub. And I think the most common American way of honouring St. Patrick's Day is usually drinking green beer. Mm-hmm. And that's about it from what I've observed.
It's pretty much it. Or drinking Guinness. That's pretty much what they try to do.
This is delicious. I love Guinness. Are you a Garth Brooks fan by chance? That's such a random question.
I used to love him.
There's something about you that's reminding me of him for some reason, so I just had to ask.
It's the chubbiness in my face right now, which I'm trying to lose.
Oh.
Yeah, but no, and it also maybe my Fender shirt,
Oh, I didn't even see that.
So,
very good.
Yeah,
that's
I got to step a little further back to get that going in there. Let's talk about your life growing up and in Ireland and everywhere else, and take me through a typical day, what it was, as you kind of went through school and before you got to the point that you're at right now.
Gosh, well, how far back do we want to go? Do I just pick
Well, it's up to you. We can just, in general, here's what the day-to-days are kind of like, or you can,
Yeah, so I went to primary school in Epsom, Surrey, which is in England. It's south of London, an area of East Sussex. And that's actually where I learned to read and write. And the very first thing that comes to mind I was really quite young, and we were learning how to trace letters. So I was very, very young, and I was trying to use my left hand, and I wasn't allowed to. And I'm sharing that story because to this day, I'm not entirely sure if I'm left right-handed, if I'm just ambidextrous. And that's it. I have been taught to write with my right hand. Writing with your left hand was not allowed, at least not at that specific school. So yeah, I got up, went to school, came home. I was a performing artist my entire life, so it was always dance or theatre or some type of singing class. And other than academics, that was my upbringing for the most part.
Oh, that's kind of interesting. It's not too far off from what we do, and how our upbringing is either. Obviously, education systems are different, but
Right.
but the day-to-day essence of an overall picture is not too far away, which is kind of interesting.
Oh,
And
in so many parts of the world, you'll find similarities. Even the ones that seem, you can always, if you seek to appreciate, you'll never be disappointed. And we can find ways to relate as long as we look for it, no matter where we're from.
I totally agree with that, 100%.
Yeah.
And now, as you're growing up and you finally started to get into the workforce, what career path along the way and different paths did you take to get to the point that you're at right now?
You say you used path as in singular. There were multiple paths.
Well, paths, yes, the multiple paths, but typically you're the singularity in that, right? So you're the one person that drives that path. There may
Of
be
course.
different, outcomes at different times, but really you're the pathway.
I started again in the world of performing arts. Technically, as jobs or employment would be concerned, if you want to reference, my signing a contract for the sake of, trading my time, efforts, talents for money, that began when I was 8 years old. In theatre, I started doing professional theatre when I was 8, and I continued to do professional shows in theatre until I was in my early 20s. I went to university. I got a series of degrees. I have 6 degrees, actually.
Oh, wow.
I took school very, very seriously. It matters a lot to me. I became a glorified career employment exploration specialist / job coach. I contracted with the Department of Economic Security. I did vocational rehabilitation for many, many years. I started my own therapeutic practice and became a therapist, and hypnotherapy was my primary therapeutic modality, as I find talk therapy to be the least effective as far as really implementing any real change. And I was always a writer. I always really loved to write, although I only got published for the first time just recently, so that was a really big deal. And I always stayed in the world of dance. That was definitely a constant for me. That was one performing art that I just never discontinued doing. So I started competing professionally. My first husband was a professional ballroom dancer. We then began to teach together. I started my second business, which was a ballroom dance studio, which I still have, currently located in Agoura Hills, California, called Dance Masters. We've been in business now for 10 years. I'm very, very proud of that. And then I built a corporation called Dance Masters Performing Arts, where we started doing different performing arts curriculum and enrichment for impoverished school districts, all with emphasizing emotional literacy, most specifically social emotional learning. That was not enough. And I realized I was using my corporation and treating my corporation, operating my corporation as more of a nonprofit rather than being a for-profit entity. And so I went, well, let's actually do it proper and do up a non-profit. And that's how Builders of a Better World came into play. And now Builders does all sorts of things, but it's definitely a cultivation, accumulation of everything I've ever done. So hopefully that answers your question.
No, you actually answered a lot of questions that I was going to have on the list, but you're like, it's so beautiful the way you delivered it. And so
thank you.
Because what led up to the building of the nonprofit, but you just eloquently just explained everything, so I don't have to worry about that. And it's was there ever a moment, an exact moment, because you talked about how you saw things being as a nonprofit. Was there ever a moment that you said, yes, this pivotal moment right here at this right time is what I need to be doing?
You mean as in just deciding to move forward with a nonprofit, that moment where I said, nonprofit must be made? I mean, Honestly, no, I got to say, it was a slow build, a slow discovery. It was always something I thought I wanted to do, and I'd gotten a lot of negative feedback when I would present it to different, advisors or people that I sort of looked up to in the business world or admired in some way with regards to how they've come to navigate their professional lives. And a lot of people will create nonprofit entities purely for tax incentives. And that can be the extent of it, but there's a lot more that goes into it. It's not owned by you legally, right? Whatever vicinity in which you begin the nonprofit, I mean, it's owned by the state of California, and I wanted to kind of not be the primary face of everything. I wanted a group of people to be held accountable to, and there's where a board comes into play. I want someone who can, take the ultimate objective but execute it in their own vision, and that's where an executive director comes into play. I wanted a collaborative environment, and I wanted it to be a compilation of so many different people with all their expertise and their passions and their interests to all serve the same mission and the same purpose, but in their own very unique and individualized way of wanting to do it and execute it for themselves. And artists bring that. And so when you employ a group of artists, they come together and put their own little piece on it. They're their own professional. And again, as long as the initial objective is maintained and honored, and the whole mission behind Builders is what we work towards, and that's the end, that's the goal, we nail that. I was really willing to relinquish any and all semblance of control with how we got there. I was simply the original visionary, and I was proud to be that forefront leader to begin with, but now I just want to sit back and let it take shape as is intended to, however that is defined by destiny, universe, current culture, whatever it is that decides to take the wheel or be the path now moving forward. I have other things that I would like to spend my day-to-day doing, to be honest, and you build the ship and then you say, okay, go sail away, and I want to just see what it becomes now.
Oh yeah. Sometimes you just want to look back and just see where it goes. Absolutely. There's sometimes it's like here in Kentucky we have a lot of big lakes that we have, not as big as the Great Lakes, but pretty decent sized lakes.
Okay.
And we sit back and you just let yourself just kind of float on that water, and whether you get out in the water on a tube or just laying back on the pontoon, you just enjoy every moment there and just see where it takes you. Sometimes you don't even anchor out, you just let it cast and see where you drift.
It's beautiful. So, I have no ego about any of it, and I think that's a big part of it. When I was saying I was CEO of this corporation, it had a connotation that presented itself pertaining to the ways people interpreted that phrase or title or hearing it, whereas when I say oh yeah, I founded a nonprofit, the response is a little different. And I prefer that response over being seen as, some executive type that runs a corporation, although I do that, have done that, and that's a piece of it. I like the philanthropic universe, and I think I found my tribe, which is a really cool thing. So when you allow yourself to just float, I think sometimes the river just takes you where you're ultimately intended to end up, rather than trying to control and force the process, if that makes sense. So that was definitely a piece of it as well. So no, there wasn't one moment where I went, oh, I must make Builders happen. It was really something that just gradually came to what it needed to be over time. So.
Gotcha. And as you're doing, your day-to-day with this new nonprofit, Builders of a Better World, can you kind of give us the ins and outs of the business itself? Because you kind of went over a little bit of it, but I want to know specifically to this business, what is your qualifications for helping people out? Who are the type of people you help out?
Sure. So we have a whole printout of all the things I would want to say so that I don't miss anything.
No,
we do quite a bit. There's a series of groups. I guess you can throw them into certain categories here. I'll break them down a little bit, but it really, the emphasis in all that we do is around emotional literacy. So in order to understand what I'm saying, I'm going to define that for you. And we're defining emotional literacy as the ability to recognize, understand, express, and regulate emotions in oneself and others, using that awareness to communicate authentically, make wiser decisions, build healthy relationships, and contribute positively to the world. Builders of a Better World's mission is to essentially become the best version of you, because that's the best way you can build the best world, if that makes sense. So everything that we do emphasizes that concept of developing emotional literacy as a set of skills so that you can ultimately thrive as a human. We need emotional literacy in every single aspect of our lives in order to really be able to just, again, enjoy it and build the best relationships, be the best boss, be the best student, really knowing yourself first and foremost. So we have programs and offerings that can help anyone who's interested. Right now, we predominantly focus on youth, so children and youth. We have socioeconomically disadvantaged youth. We have public school programs. We have homeschool programs. And we also have foster programs to help with kids in foster care so that they can have access to our programs as well. Most of our programs are, again, performing arts based. So it's very similar to what I was doing with Dance Masters Performing Arts and now just under Builders. We also offer programs for adults. We offer programs for singles, couples, as well as families. You can bring your whole family unit in and receive classes. We are launching an online program, which is really exciting. So you can have virtual access to our course offerings, so you don't have to just be in person. And then through my I Thrive authorship series, I have a series of 9 ebooks that are coming out with different titles and categories of different things that have their own respective blueprints, workshops, journals. I have a webinar coming up that we can talk about under Builders. So a lot of things we're trying to gear towards is really to be able to open up and offer more to other communities. Something really exciting though, a third category, as I mentioned, we are offering programs to leaders and decision makers. Right. So if you're a business owner, if you're someone who's following a political path, if you're someone who simply just, has an organization, or you run a networking group, it can be super simple. Or you just have a lot of authority and want help being able to self-regulate and make more adequate decisions from a state of clarity, we have programs for that as well. So it's a lot that we do and that we offer.
It sounds like it.
But it's all about building community and, again, investing in yourself and doing everything you can to be fit for service.
So I want to be a little direct, and I also want to ask kind of a sensitive question to a degree.
I love it. Go ahead. I'm so interested.
So when you're talking socioeconomics, okay, and you're talking about the disadvantaged people there, are we talking about specific minority groups? Are we talking about just people in general who are just, low on income and just not got the right environment? What are we talking about here?
All of it. So if there's, so socioeconomic status is essentially referring to people that could identify with an impoverished or poor community or environment. And that community or environment can be defined as your residence. It can be defined as where you go to school. So for a lot of the kids, we offer programs through schools that are within a low socioeconomic vicinity. Like they are, public schools get graded based on socioeconomic status. They rank from really poor to super rich and wealthy, and we gravitate towards those first few that really have absolutely no money for what is considered extracurricular or enrichment activities, offerings, etc. So that's one way to define it. Everybody is welcome, and we have no geared preference towards people of any other background or demographic. It's really just all are welcome, and if you can't afford programs, we figure out how to make it work for you, even down to providing you with a guitar if you're interested in guitar classes, or an electric drum set, or a computer if you can't get to a virtual course offering because you don't have a computer. If you need transportation and you want to come in person for classes. We provide transportation services. If you're in a foster program and your, foster parent can't commit to dropping you off every day, we'll come pick you up. Things of that sort. So we do everything we can to accommodate, simply to make things accessible, if that makes sense.
No, it totally does, and it's very, very impressive to be honest.
Oh, thanks.
So, yeah, I mean, it's interesting to hear how you approach the answer to that question. It's interesting to see how much you get involved into this stuff.
Oh, it's everything I've lived and breathed for the last, beyond decade. I worked for a nonprofit doing this very thing as an employee ages ago. As like a summer job, when you're in school, you're in university and you're young, and you just need something to keep you going, a little side hustle. Like this is what I've done and known for so many years. It's how I move through the world now. It's just a part of who I am. And I always talk about, especially when it comes to builders and publishing my books, I'm not in any way, and we don't present information in a way that says you should do this, or this would be better, this is the best way to do it for you. We don't present information that way. That actually goes against social emotional learning by definition. I simply say, this is how I move through the world, this is how I see things, this is how I've done it. I've accomplished this, and this is me and living in my happiness and feeling my joy, and this is simply how I got there. Here's science and psychology that says, this is of benefit for these reasons, and you find what rings right and true and good for you. And presenting information that way, especially in a classroom or a course, I feel like is always the way to go. So it helps people to find themselves and find how they define things, their relationship to themselves. And that can only be a journey through individual discovery. It's not something that one can just say, okay, I'm going to tell you step by step how to get there. It's guidance more than anything, and suggestion. Also, simply, did you know this was possible? Mm-hmm. Because some people don't know what they don't know until they know.
You're exactly right. You're exactly right. And it reminds me of a few stories I've heard over the years. One was from about a prima ballerina, and I cannot remember her name.
Okay.
And she was very distracted in life. She was very disoriented, and this is before the time that they really had the ADHD diagnosis going on. So this is, early 1900s, probably, easy from the 50s to early 60s, 30s, somewhere around in there. So it's in that time frame. But the doctor that took notice, because the mom was concerned about the daughter at the time, about not having the ability to pay attention, not having the ability to do anything. And they left her alone, and they had music playing, and they watched her dance. And the doctor took note of that and said, there's nothing wrong with your daughter. You just got to give her an outlet, basically. And she's a dancer. Enroll her into dancing classes. And it took off from there, and she became a prima ballerina. Yeah. Likewise, I just heard a story yesterday. Because we are products of our environment sometimes. If we don't get that diversity, we don't succeed sometimes. And sometimes it doesn't always work out, especially in this case, because we're talking about a kid who's on the spectrum, has autism. It was nonverbal. And one little girl in the class was a big talker. So she probably had ADHD, and continued on just yapping. Well, the teacher kind of got tired of her talking to all her classmates and put her with a nonverbal kid, thinking that, hey, this is going to be beneficial because the person's not going to be able to talk back. Uh-huh. That nonverbal kid ended up speaking because the girl kept talking to him constantly over and over and over. It's just beautiful moments like that.
It's beautiful. It's so beautiful. We're so far from being able to understand neurodivergence to the fullest extent we can. We know so little about the brain. There's so much more to be discovered in that area. I was also diagnosed with ADHD. I was that girl that couldn't pay attention in school, right? Yes, exactly. people, it's finding your flow. It's finding the ability to embody a state that allows you, that captivates your focus, just like dance can. It's a flow state, and it speaks to you for whatever reason, whatever way, define it however you'd like, and it puts you in a position where you're not having to try to focus the same way that, you know, when you're sitting down and saying, okay, you must learn times tables, and you're sitting down and you're like, oh, I have no interest in this, and my mind's going here, there, and everywhere. And yeah, I mean, we're meant to inspire each other. I really believe that. And we're meant to, at the same time, understand the difference between, you know, going with what other people do and then finding our own way as it feels best for us. But yeah, there's always significance in being able to look at a story, to hear what someone else's journey was like, and again, discover that sense of resonance and say, well, if they can do it, I can do it. If you're nonverbal, you know, as a child, and you learn to speak, however you get there, I mean, to me, that's amazing.
It is. And one of the reasons I brought that up, because I want to know, has there been any impactful moments in this Builders of a Better World that has just impacted you so much, where you helped somebody out, that it's just such a memorable moment?
That's one of the hardest questions I get asked. I got to tell you, it's a lovely question, and thank you so much for asking it. Thank you for any and all questions. I appreciate it so much. I love talking about this, but that is really one of the hardest ones for me. You know, I always want to share positivity. You know, you always want to talk about things that are uplifting and positive. So I'm always happy to celebrate beautiful moments. I also feel very sensitive, though, to not feel like I'm bragging, you know, as the one who made the difference in someone's life. I don't enjoy presenting it that way. Like they made choices for themselves, and I was simply an observer. So my reward in what I've found to be really remarkable, and I can go into specific stories, absolutely, but really the piece for me is it fills me and ignites my heart just to be able to be in the room when it happens. Does that make sense? Not so much associated with like, my program did this. It's like, yes, but yeah. Also sometimes, it's not about that. It's about just simply being a person who can look at a child and watch them go from, you know, debilitatingly anxious, stuttering, slurring words, not able to look up, not able to make eye contact, not able to engage, you know, very well socially with other adults, let alone, you know, really build a friendship. You watch that child and, you know, they start taking a singing class. And they themselves, you can almost see the thoughts across their face. Day 1, day 2, week 3, week 4, and they're like, why am I here? Why am I here? I'm dreading performance. I'm dreading this impending concert. Our parents are coming and I have to get up and I have to do this in front of them. And you can tell that they're really uncomfortable. And you see them return and they come back, and week 3 and 4 turns into week 5 and 6. And then week 7 and 8, and then performance day comes, and they've been taught and have learned and have found their way of expressing and defining and showing up. And that same little girl that was debilitatingly just shy stands out and belts her lungs out like she's been doing it her entire life. And the people that come to her afterwards and give her such praise, and, you know, maybe grandma brought her flowers, and that little girl's all of a sudden high on life, and she's looking up at everyone going, yeah, I did that. Celebrate me. And she's reveling and glowing in what she's done and what she's accomplished. And she's saying, I can't wait to do it again. When are we singing again? Can we perform at Christmas time? And you're like, the transformation, it's incredible, and she'll never be the same. She'll never be the same now. She has a friend group. She has, you know, peers that she can go up to and talk to. She can self-advocate now. She can, you know, stand up and say, hey, I need help with this. I don't understand this. I need help. And that has such a transferable skill set into every aspect of her life. And that came from a singing class that was intended to help kids understand social emotional learning, how to exercise confidence and self-advocate and introduce themselves with confidence and a sense of self-praise. And all that's all you have to do is put that intention, and kids will absorb it like the brilliant little sponges that they are. And then you yourself just kind of sit back, and I don't have thoughts that are, you know, anywhere near surrounding wanting to give myself credit. Mm-hmm. I give her credit. I give her credit for showing up, and I give her credit for coming back. And it was simply my honor and privilege to have been in the room.
Yeah, absolutely. But one of the things I would love to challenge you with is don't let your modesty get in the way, right? So seriously, so think about it. You don't ever have to say I, and you kind of already know that. But when you're doing it, do it from the organizational standpoint.
Yeah, we right.
It's like, I got to watch through this organization I'm with how it impacted, or the organization was able to help this one child so much, and I was able to watch and witness this powerful moment. So, you know, I was taught that too early on. So I was like, you know, make sure you get those things and get those moments in there. And
that's beautiful.
It's just,
yes,
yeah.
It's beautiful. We are builders. We are the builders.
Yeah. And speaking of building, because it takes a lot into these organizations, how heavily do these type of organizations run on volunteers and donors?
Massively. I mean, nonprofit entities, you know, of course they do make a profit, right? Like you have the potential to, I mean, money makes the world go round. You have to be able to buy things and pay your staff and do all the things, but there's no one at the top, you know, taking the cream off of the vat of butter, for lack of a better reference or analogy. So any money that gets made goes back into the entity. Any money that would be considered a profit is put back into, you know, different aspects of expanding and developing the nonprofit. So that's really important. It's all based on donations, and you know, people who are willing to do corporate sponsorships, you know, big companies that are willing to donate a big part of their resources, or if they can send employees to volunteer, that's always a big thing. But yes, donations, corporate sponsorships, independent sponsorships, scholarships that are from private donators. People willing to donate equipment is a really big thing. We have so many guitars that got donated. We have keyboards that got donated. We have drum sets that got donated. That's been, I mean, that's huge for us. You can get grant funding, and then you must ensure that you have a compliance officer that keeps you compliant with whatever those contingencies or agreements are for you to qualify in being able to obtain that grant, and specifically what it was intended to go towards. Gets very specific. So there are things there that you have to be really careful about, but volunteers are so significant as far as what helps us. Donations, like I said, of any kind, be it, you know, private donations or, you know, company funded donations. I mean, we're always looking for more ways to expand and develop and improve our quality, our programs. Having really qualified professionals that are able to deliver these classes and these offerings. You know, these are people that have, you know, master's degrees, some of them doctorate degrees. So you have to pay them adequately for their time. If you do the entity right, a nonprofit can employ a substantial amount of people, full-time, part-time. That's near and dear to my heart, is an entity that creates jobs and contributes to the local economy, but also the workforce. It's something that really speaks to me. So yeah, it's expensive. So anything that helps is appreciated, and anyone's time or finances or, you know, again, materials that they can spare. I mean, we're glad for it.
Well, Ashlieya, it has been such an honor to speak with you, and you've been so nice and so sweet.
Well, thank you.
If anybody wanted to get in touch with you or your organizations, learn more, what can they do?
Please go to buildersofabetterworld.org. If you would like more information that is not available on our website, you can send me an email at founder at buildersofabetter.org. You can also follow us on social media, Builders of a Better World. And then I'm all over. So Google me and all sorts of stuff will pop up. I don't think there are many women in the world with the name Ashlieya. So I'm always easy enough to find if you want to find me. And please do. I'm always happy to have a chat. So reach out to us and definitely look into more of what we do. If you're interested in volunteering, giving money away, or you want to learn more about emotional literacy, definitely reach out and find us.
Awesome. Thank you so much again. And it truly has been a pleasure.
No, thank you so much, Jonathan. It's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure as well. Thank you.
This episode of It's Your Break was not a paid advertisement. It's Your Break is a news and entertainment podcast. The thoughts and comments of the host or guest are those of the individual speaking, and not necessarily that of It's Your Break or Spark a Vision. Follow It's Your Break on Instagram, Threads, TikTok, and YouTube at It's Your Break. Subscribe and follow on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Audible, and iHeart. This podcast is owned, produced, and distributed by Spark a Vision, and is hosted by Jonathan Mertz. Copyright It's Your Break and Spark a Vision. All rights reserved.